Hello and welcome to the Politics on Parrot TV. My name is Sainabou, and today we have two amazing guests joining us. We have Mr. Dion right here and Mr. Anthony. We'll just get right into it and have a quick introduction. Mr. Anthony, please give us a brief introduction about who you are and what do you do?
Good morning.
Afternoon here in Florida.
Wow.
Forgive me, I sort of had a delayed reaction. Was that question for me?
Yes, that was you, sir.
Okay, could you repeat it?
No, I wanted you to just give us a brief introduction about who you are and what do you do.
Oh my God. The easiest way to explain that is that I share with everyone I have three lives. And you would think they're part-time, but they're actually all full-time. My predominant life is that I am a 30-year financial advisor and run a small company called the Financial Advisors. That's my predominant life. My second life is I'm an adjunct professor for both a private and public university here in New York. And my third life, when I'm trying to save the world as opposed to everybody else, is living in the Bronx now for close to 40 years. I've become very community involved, and by becoming very community involved, I've become very politically involved. So I am the founder of a local club here in the northwest section of the Bronx called Northwest Bronx.
We're having a
Oh, those are my three lives.
Well, you have a very interesting three lives, it seems. Mr. Dion, you might give us a brief introduction?
Hi, good afternoon, everybody. I'm Dion Powell, and I'm from the southern region of the Bronx. And after having a 2020 COVID falling out with Mr. Rivieccio, I started my own group, not club, called the South Bronx Free Thinking Democrats on Facebook, and it's very, very successful. What I do is I'm actually a consultant for three campaigns in New York City, one for Bronx for a president, one for a civil court judge, and one for a city council candidate for Lower Manhattan. And the next thing I do is I also have a small consulting company for federal contracting to give minority-owned businesses, nonprofits, faith-based organizations, and other government service entities access to contracts, grants, funding, and services.
Yeah, that's fantastic. Thank you so much for joining us both. We're here to actually just learn today and kind of get a general information on what is going on in New York politics. So my first question is, who are the key players right now for New York politics today?
I'll let Mr. Anthony go first, age before beauty.
Mr.
I love
Anthony.
you too, Dion. It's nice to see you. Could you be a little more specific? Because as I'm sure you know, there are like 395 races happening right now in New York.
Yes, you guys have actually a lot going on. So right now we can just go with let's say with the city council because last week we had some of the candidates come here and kind of give us a general view on what their platform is about. And it seemed like we had a lot of people that were very community based, which is fantastic for us to see, but we also kind of land on the issues that there was a lot of trust issues within the community when it comes to like their political representatives. So in that range, who would
Let
be
me
the one
let
that,
me let me broaden that out a bit, if I might. What just transpired were here in the Bronx anyway, but throughout the city
I'm sorry, sir,
were.
we're hearing a lot of static, so it's kind of breaking what you're saying. We can't really hear you clearly.
I know I seem to be having a Zoom problem. Can you hear me better?
Like, okay. All right, I think we got it right there.
Can you hear me better?
Yes, definitely.
No, I was going to say that what just transpired, using the Bronx as an example, were two special elections. Of course, since December of last year, we've been throughout the city going through special electoral patterns for city council. And now, of course, we have the primary that will be coming up this summer. So what's transpired are different special elections here in the Bronx. We just had two, one in the 11th Council District, one in the 15th Council District. I should say in full disclosure that our organization supported multiple candidates in the 15th council district and in the 11th. But they were great races, part of democracy, generally speaking. And now we're going right into a primary. What is sad to me is the Bronx special elections show, on average, about 5% of the electoral people vote. And I think, that's where, an education curve really has to come into play, because, it's our tax money that keeps the early voting process alive, which I'm a very big supporter of. But obviously, I don't know if we can sustain having that system with only, 4 to 8% of the vote, 4% in the 15th, 8% in the 11th are coming out to vote. So I have mixed reactions about the special, elections. I'm sure you might have some specific questions. I'll of course have some wonderful specific stories to share with you. But I think with the numbers that low, you can look at it as a framework for the primary. And being a mathematician by trade, I've actually looked at the numbers, dissected the numbers, done all sorts of things with the numbers. So it's going to be a guideline. But I really don't think, accurately speaking, it was worth it.
Okay, well, my answer is a little bit different. I'll take this in a different direction because me and Mr. Rivieccio always butts heads. I like to say Mr. Anthony is one of the high influencers here in the Bronx and beyond because they always come to Northwest and his organization's mentioned in Soul periodicals as well. Hopefully one day I'll grow up to be just like him, the South Bronx, we think Democrats.
I
That's my
apologize,
plug for that.
Dion. I don't know if you have like a background music frequency in the back. Do you mind kind of just lowering that just a little bit? Kind of hears
Is this better?
It's much better.
Okay, I'm sorry. Yeah, so Anthony Rivieccio, let's start there. And then another influential player is Mr. Robert Press, who couldn't unfortunately make it here today, but hopefully next time. He has a little slight, he's under the weather. Get it? He's under the weather. So some of the key influencers here in New York City, unfortunately, is the media, which tells a lot of people what to think and who are the influencers. And a lot of misinformation and disinformation through the media. All right. And right now they're telling people that, and I'll name drop, that Andrew Yang, who gave us some money throughout the year, is the front runner. However, on the streets where I am, which is field operations, that's not necessarily the case. He's perceived as a carpetbagger, but the media likes to put this out there to influence the voting system. Another piece of misinformation, disinformation is that, these people are candidates, and that's not true. Right now, we're going through the petitioning period, and these people are not on the ballot. All of us are not on the ballot, right? And so once we get to April, and there's an official candidate list, then we can actually know who the candidates and key players are. And the last thing that the media is not telling people is about ranked choice voting and how it works, right? So now everybody's still thinking one shot wins all. So Andrew Yang's going to win, Eric Adams is going to win. But what I do in the South Bronx, we think the Democrats is we post our top 5 candidates that are going to be in the ranked choice voting positions, 1 through 5. Right, and some people just put 1 or 2, but we don't Prince right like other people. We like people don't. These are the 5 people according to ranked choice voting system that we're going to go through 1 to 5, and these are future candidates that we would like to support, and that's very important. The civic education aspect.
That's actually very interesting because I did have a question that was going to lead into that, where the media does kind of control the narrative here a lot more so. And the fact that everybody's pretty much been locked in for months, they're spending more and more time on their screen. So how can, let's say, council members in this case better get their point across, where in this case where people are voting for the best interest of their community and not voting because like you said, that's the person they're seeing the most on screen time. Like, you have an organization that's kind of pushing that, but Mr. Anthony, what do you think as a whole of New York, what is the best way to kind of get the community more so involved in their special elections?
Well, without spending 5 minutes doing promotion like Mr. Powell, and of course we have a wonderful Facebook page. Well,
I didn't
Northwest.
spend 5 minutes. I spent
Find on search, a Facebook search. That is, of course, 4 or 5 times higher than his, but I won't spend 5 minutes with that. But to
the
answer
shade of
your
it all,
question,
shade.
but to answer your question, I've been strongly recommending the candidates for the last couple of years, even prior to COVID, that we have to look at social media as a tool. And there are many, many ways of using it. Facebook is just one. I concentrate on even as going as far as creating apps for candidates. Candidates have their own app where they can actually, what I call push and pull their policies, their procedures, trying to get people to volunteer into their campaign. It's not the end all be all, of course. Notice I said please. The best person that originally applied it was Ms. Nicasio. But today, now with COVID, I think, as I shared with many candidates, I think now it's not got to be not just a piece. It might even have to be as much as half. And then, of course, with the other half, you try to do exactly as Mr. Oswald Felix did. He basically hit the ground. Many others did as well, but you basically just hit the ground, pound the pavement, say hello to people, introduce yourself on the platform, use social media as a very important piece. And I think today, and maybe for the near future, I hope not too long, but for the near future, that's going to be an integral part of getting out the message.
All right. Mr. Dwayne, it sounds like you had something to say to add to what he had said.
Yeah, as always, I like to piggyback of Mr. Tony's back over there and say that, it's good he mentioned my good friend Oswald Felice, who's in the front running for his city council race in the Bronx. I've known Oswald before law school, when we were both part of the Bronx Young Democrats. So one of the things I couldn't help but notice is that identity politics is playing very well for ranked choice voting, because the Dominican community is up and coming and their voting block is consistent. So in the ranked choice voting situation, to have that consistency, it might come into play with everybody else's, their RCB stuff going on. So we'll see how identity politics plays out in city council races across the board. Let's take my district, the 16th council district. And me, I was told by several Black leaders that this seat must remain Black and must be a Black woman. So those identity politics niches and roles go into play here in the Bronx. Whereas in other communities, sometimes nepotism and cronyism goes a long way. Like in Mr. Riviecio's area up there in the Northwest, father and son, tag team is running some piece with the Democrats machine and the Ben
I'm not
Franklin
sure how
front.
this answers your question, but we're both listening.
If you read the chat, sir, she wants to specifically go with the city council races. Thank you. But back to you.
No, I'm concentrating on the moderator who asked you the question.
I apologize, gentlemen. I actually do want to touch on the New York borough presidential elections as well from Manhattan to Bronx, because I did see that you gotta have a lot of people. There's a lot of candidates in Brooklyn, especially, and they're all from different backgrounds. Now, New York as a whole is literally the best example of a melting pot, which is America, because New York as a whole has people from all around the world. You can imagine anyone is there. So that representation, I do understand, is very important in especially like community offices like this. So do you mind touching on the borough presidential, like the race from Manhattan, New York, Brooklyn, and Staten Island and Bronx? Like, who are the candidates we need to look at and keep our focus on? Because it's a lot. And as an individual, like if I had to vote, it's going to be hard for me to kind of figure out who's really playing for me and who's just playing for the power grab. How can we best dissect that? Mr. Anthony, can you please touch on it? That's a question for both of you, but we'll go with Mr. Anthony first.
If I can answer it from a Bronx-wide point of view, not that I don't keep track of course, all 5 boroughs, but, as I had indicated, we're very predominantly worried and settled, in our neck of the woods. So Bronx is a borough. First and foremost, I should say, in full disclosure, our organization has already endorsed Fernando Borough. So, notwithstanding that, what I think the borough of the Bronx needs is to find a person that will represent the Bronx and hopefully be able to do 2 things. Number one, bring as much bacon to the Bronx as they can. And quite frankly, I don't care where they get it from. And number two, be a good listener. Because I think our current and even prior administrations have been good listeners. We believe Fernando Cabrera would be the best, whether it was Fernando Cabrera or any other name you want to attach to it. I personally believe those are the two best qualifications for borough president. Even in mind that by city charter, the borough president has very limited power, so they're more of an advocacy organization more than anything else. Can be a very, of course, influential one, but very little from a citywide power structure.
I saw that they called them little mayors with little power.
Well, I would say little mayors with as much power as one can achieve.
Well, just like the other offices, comptroller, public advocate, the borough presidents are also a stepping stone to the mayor's mansion, as it was. A lot of people are starting to notice that with several candidates as well. In the Bronx, we have our candidates, and the South Bronx Free Thinking Democrats hasn't really put anybody up there, but I'll go with Sam Ravello first, which is an up-and-coming non-politician. The Reverend Cabrera second. Vanessa Gibson number 3. Italian number 4, and Sepulveda number 5. Because those are actually no. Let me change that. I'm gonna put Victor Gutierrez as number 5 instead of Sepulveda. And citywide, Brooklyn has a nice race. Robert Cornegie, who should be next on the tallest elected official in the world. You know what I mean? And Queens, Donovan Richards, he's the incumbent because of the special that happened with him that's going on. Staten Island has its own dynamic over there. And actually, in Manhattan, New York County, I'm supporting Ben Kalos because that's another New York State Young Democrats alum. And so far, I want him to be the front runner out of that. So me and Anthony Sharp stay in the Bronx, but me, I have operative citywide and beyond.
And he goes way beyond. Good for him.
Yeah, he kind of just touched on everyone. You were mentioning that you didn't care how they brought the bacon into the Bronx. I do know there are people that kind of feel like, let's say, for instance, the grassrooting, where it's like you're getting the money from the community and the community is investing in itself, right? Now, that makes for a lot, I did talk to some of the councilmen and they feel as though that is kind of, in a way, it makes it easier for the community to feel like they have a voice inside what decisions are being made on their behalf. Do you think kind of getting the bacon in this case, the bacon from people that may not fully be on your interests, but they're serving theirs? Because if you think about it, that's kind of a lot what happens in politics. You're having different people coming in because they know once you're in office, you're going to benefit them and you're going to be working for their agenda. So now that goes back to our trust.
I think I understand the scope of your question, I think. But I want to first and foremost say, of course, I cannot speak directly for the Cabrera campaign. But I can say indirectly that Mr. Cabrera wants to meet as many people as he can. I know that he travels daily, meets groups anywhere from 5 to 50 daily, and his door has always been open since he was a city councilman in 2009. So I think the way he's run his office as a city councilman, he will run the borough presidency the same way, which is pretty much a more accessible area.
Dion, you look like you have something to say about that. Do you?
I'm disgusted. Let's go in another direction, this guy. I'm going to tell you the raw truth on your show. Follow the money. Go to New York City campaign finance. Google that first, people, and track where the money is going. In the South Bronx, they keep us so poor, dependent, and dumb that we can't put money into these campaigns. So when you see all this outside money, that's connected to outside interests. Poverty is a big industry. All the people that's coming in here to help, they clandestinely slip. And they take access to our ownership, access to our community leadership, and access to our money, right? Capital, which we need to control our own destiny. So all these Democrat snakes of America, the DSA, are the vipers. they're the snakes you can't see, and they bite, and it's too late. The other people, the Republicans and the red people and Trump, you can see those snakes like rattlesnakes. But the DSA folk that want to come and help and give us all these amenities, they're more dangerous. And another thing people should know, the Bronx is the bluest county in America. All Democrat all day, but we're the poorest county in America. One of my political heroes last year, I don't have many, is Miss Kim Klacik from Baltimore. She exposed everything about the economy of being four cities, but controlled by Democrats, as Mr. Rivieccio likes to coin it. So yes, that's the outside interest and money we should worry about. Democrats, there you go, and thank you. Excuse my French, and he's Italian. Okay, so yeah, those are the ones we watch out for. Now, the what? You said you want 18th Puerto Rican? Oh, Puerto Rico.
No, my mother's Puerto Rican, my father's Italian. That makes me a Puerto Rican idiot.
Oh, okay. There you go. I'm 100% black. 1/18th from Anguilla. You see, we could go back and forth. You know, the Bronx wise guys, the wise asses.
But rather. Dion, what you're forgetting is what you're saying is 98% correct. What you're forgetting is the 2%, which is the corruption you speak of, which I totally agree with, has been decades. So before, and I hate to speak about it in race-related terms, but frankly, using your words, right? The blacks and Puerto Ricans of today learned from the Italians and Irish from decades prior.
That's right. The oppressed have become the oppressor.
With the levels of corruption here in the Bronx. But those pipes are the same pipes with just a different name every 10 years. But see, this is where I say to you, you're a little, younger than me, so you got to do your history a little bit.
No, we can all say, basically agree that in some sense of the word, regardless of where it is in a part of the world, there is a sense of corruption inside every government office. That's just kind of a simple fact that I think a lot of people have come to understand. But you were talking about Democrats, and the question is, what is the faith of the Republicans? What is the faith of the Republican Party in the upcoming elections in New York? Because I do know, some people do feel like it's about time they kind of had space in New York. New York is a blue state, so what is their faith in, how can they kind of voice out their opinion without almost making it seem like they're kind of going against everything?
I'll take that one, guy. Now we can go beauty before age. So the Republican Party actually is interesting here in New York City. And I also was on the conservative line here in the Bronx, and I also helped start the Bronx Libertarian Party. So I, not like that guy. So basically, one of the people that's rising stars is a guy from Mutiu, who's running for mayor, Dominican guy, conservative. A lot of people don't know the Republicans are actually changing the narrative here in New York City. And the Bronx was so scary to our blue machine is that last year, we actually had a Bronxit led by my homegirl, Evelyn Torres. A lot of people from the Bronx, by data, actually voted red last year for the orange machine, Donald Trump. And that's a very interesting dynamic because they're starting to wake up and say, hey, wait a minute. We're the poorest forever and we're the bluest forever. No matter who's in the White House, we're still going to be poorest forever and the bluest forever. And the Bronx is the poorest congressional district. It's always a campaign slogan. And another thing about New York City that's interesting is a lot of black men like myself, by Kamala Harris, I voted for Dr. Joe Jorgensen from the Libertarian Party. Either they didn't vote for these two guys or the
Can you repeat that again? You kind of were breaking up really badly.
Sorry. I said a lot of black men didn't vote for Biden Harris because we looked at their records of all the improprieties of sending us to jail in California and policies of a 40-year-old political career. So now a lot of people say, you know what, Republicans aren't actually that bad, just that it's the mark of the beast politically. Like me, I'm a Democrat on paper because that's the only way to run for office. But if you're like AOC, it's actually a way to get inside and actually flip the script. So Republicans have a lot to say, and that's why it's good to have third-party alliances like the Bronx GOP and your friend Rendino up there, because you see the whole picture from a different angle to actually get things done and how to work with people. This Democratic monopoly is actually hurting us and actually making a lot of money off our poverty. Back to you.
You know, I'm going to be honest with you. I'm not sure I understood the scope of the question, and I was hoping to pick it up from Mr. Powell. But I don't know. He went from the local all the way to the White House all in 2 minutes, so I sort of lost the scope of the question. Could you repeat it?
The question was basically to kind of just get into what is the faith of the Republicans in the New York elections? Because New York
And
is
again,
a
when you say New York, we're talking New York City.
we're
Or New York
talking
State.
we're talking them in general as Republicans in the general elections in New York, be it mayoral elections. It could be canceled. They do feel like at
The
some
New
point that,
York,
like he said,
the
go
New
ahead.
York Republican Party and Conservative Party as well, and it varies from borough to borough. But I would say it's still a great fundraising machine. It is still a great fundraising machine. Not to say they get the money locally. Of course, they get a few dollars. They get it nationally, and in some cases, international. Great fundraising machine. It's actual apparatus, ground apparatus, social media apparatus, voting apparatus. Again, varies from borough to borough. I would say, on average, my own humble opinion, you're looking at 15%. Where's it going? Down.
I would also like to add that because of ranked choice voting, another thing that's scary is a lot of Republicans actually switch to Democrat because they know in the New York City Democratic primary is everything. Let's take John Catsimatidis. Lots of money to waste in these elections. He's a Republican, and a lot of people are scared that if he turned blue to Democrat, he would do damage in the mayoral primary. Curtis Sliwa, another name brand in town, is running for mayor, that's building a lot of Republican support from all angles. And then another person is John Tobacco from Liquid Lunch, who had me on the show out of Staten Island, went for comptroller. So a lot of people are like, wow, Republicans are working up and using the RCV as an avenue to actually influence these elections and get their opinions heard. And lastly, Republicans are uniting and getting more people involved to go up against King Cuomo with this whole nursing home issue. A lot of people from the conservative side and all angles are getting at King Cuomo because he's against the ropes. And also de Blasio is messing up as well, making it easier for Republicans to actually have platforms to get their issues.
Speaking of Cuomo, actually, some people do believe that the governor's, excuse me, some people do believe that the governor Andrew Cuomo's like sexual harassment scandal is a setup, organized and cooked by pro-Trump New Yorkers. So basically, in this case, like most people believe Trump like voters are Republicans. So like, what do you guys have to say about that? Like, should he resign? I do see that he's being they're trying to impeach the man. How do you guys feel as a whole is affecting New York? In this case, let's say Bronx. Like you both are kind of in the same area. So how is this affecting your community?
Let's take Sheikh Musa, another person in the game that has a lot of clout politically. He actually leading a lot of press conferences in support of Governor Cuomo in the sense of due process. Even Republicans are seeing that the media is trying to control the narrative in the sense that, all right, he's guilty, let's get rid of this guy. But I'll be like, whoa, whoa, you guys want the due process on theirs. Let's all have due process for Cuomo, who we all hate. And now they're actually blaming the black church and saying, hey, you black ministers always black these guys in sexual harassment, especially Bill Clinton. Now they're all cool. The black leader's like, wait a minute, you're going to turn us media? Okay, we're a voting bloc. So now we're going to support Cuomo too. How you like that? So the media is all their jabs are actually working against them, like with Hillary Clinton. That's how Donald Trump won, right? And now Cuomo's actually getting a lot of support to stay in office. So me too. Hopefully he'll just ease on in into 2022, make his last checks, retire into the sunset, and hopefully fix his father's bridge.
You see, now, Mr. Powell and I don't disagree on everything. This is where he and I probably have our own love fest, because we have advocated for his removal after the third. So, I'm not sure about commenting on the other five. Now, of course, you mentioned the Bronx specifically. I think the better question would be, if you're not aware, you might want to follow up on this, that there are two current Bronx legislators that were working in the governor's office according to, the times that these alleged 8 people made these claims. Now, one of them, who has already spoken about it publicly, is Senator Alexandria Biaggi, has already spoke about it publicly. She has already said that when she first started with she felt very uncomfortable. She didn't go into specific details, and whether she will in the future, I hope she does. The other current legislator is Ms. Natalia Fernandez. I do not believe she's made any public comment either way. And I wish she would. Even if she doesn't know anything, I wish she would, say that. The essence of your question, should he be gone? He should have been gone after the third. Because as Mr. Powell said, you can't take another legislator for the same situation, throw him under the bus,
and then
or her,
another one. And then
we
kind of picking and choosing who we throw under the bus, basically.
That's right, and I'll be controversial too.
We're running. I'm sorry, gentlemen. We're kind of running out of time, and I just kind of wanted. I know it's hard, but can we get a quick summary of like the ranking system in Belton's? Like, how does it work, and why does it matter? Because even for an individual from outside looking in, I can tell you the American voting system is very confusing for a lot of us. You feel me? Because it's like we do not know like what can we exactly do that can help us. So if you can kind of just give us a little brief explanation on about how the ranking system works really quickly because we have about 6 minutes left. Just kind of hit us on that. Mr. Anthony?
Let me start off because my answer is very simple. I believe you asked about ranked choice voting though. Did you?
Yes.
Okay. My analysis is very simple. Go look at what was approved in the charter. What you're going to find is a bill that has a couple of paragraphs. No rules. There were no rules. When you ask for the rules, what do most people say? Oh, we're following what happened in California a couple of years ago. Are those the rules? Nobody knows the rules. Every time I ask for rules, media asks for rules. I'm sure Mr. Powell might have asked for rules along the way. We don't have any. We got a million videos that tells us 39 different things. All I say is, A, we all say a prayer, and B, expect what I call a Democrat monkey wrench.
That sounds racist, but we'll leave that alone for the next episode.
No.
So there's five candidates, RCB.
Democrat monkey wrench.
Oh, okay. Don't make me a monkey.
Let's let Dion kind of get this one out, gentlemen. We're running out of time.
All right, 5 candidates. It's the title system. 1 to 5. You write the names in, you check the little box like from SA, and you all rate it in, and there's going to be one winner after all the votes are added up. Play a video, like the man said. Common cause.
Okay, now the final questions before we head out. What's the one advice that you would give your community? What's the responsibility of the community for, like, what is their responsibility basically as a whole? Put in power, and how does that work?
I'll take that one first. Again, I'll be very quick. Education, which is the predominant reason why I'm a teacher. I'm too much of an advocate on education. There's a million ways to educate people today. Of course, with the power of the internet, education.
Be proactive. Google New York, who represents me? And so put in that system who represents you. Look all that, and also run for office. Doesn't take much. Just be 18. Find out run for office. Be a leader in your community. Also Google Rep My Block by Theo Chino, who's Yoda in this game, and run for office in the pro bono roles like myself, district leader, state committee person, judicial delegate, and county committee to represent your little box on the map. And that's all it takes.
Now, this is where you're representing your organization for consultant services? This is where it's coming in?
Oh, no, actually, people that's watching this program, please Facebook group search the South Bronx Speed Thinking Democrats and become a member and get all the latest news on an hourly basis and be a part of discourse, not the other brand that got.
Well, the early morning news, ever go to Northwest Bronx Democrats. For the later news, I definitely recommend the South Bronx, whatever that name is.
You said rats, are us rats?
Demo rats!
Okay, well,
Gentlemen, let's be nice. It's been a pleasure having you guys on here. Like you said, follow up, find out, because I believe information is key. I know a lot of young people.
I want to thank you for everyone's time. And Dion, I love you 3,000%.
That's it. We'll catch the kisses virtually.
That's what we love to see. We love to see that. They said your enemy can be your best friend. And
five choices, five choices, five choices.
There we go. All right, then thank you all so much for coming through and joining us today's beautiful afternoon. This afternoon, Mr. Dion said he's John Cena. You can't see, but he can see you. So basically, like they said, let's kind of learn up on what we can do, be proactive, and just get more information so that we can
education.
Exactly.
6 feet, 6 feet.
And please subscribe to our channels on YouTube and check us out. We'll be here every Friday at 12 p.m. And just give you a little
congratulations on the new show.
Thank you so much.
Robert Press. We need Robert Press to make this show a real mess, okay?
Thank you. That's our job. We're trying to make sure that everybody's informed and we got everything taken care of. All right. Thank you so much all for joining us. All right. You guys have a good afternoon, all right? Bye.
Thank you. Thank you.
You too.